Let's get started here. Welcome everyone to our second Better Together STEM High Schools webinar. Today, the future of electric vehicles is our topic. I'm excited to have Dave Almeida, manager of electric vehicles at pg&e here with us, and we'll also have another speaker. What we'll do is let Dave run his slideshow and tell us what's going on in the world of electric vehicles and the grid. Any questions that come up, we'll cover. After we wrap that up, Mark Edelston is here with Play It Learning to talk to us about FIRST Robotics grants. Then I've got some recommended STEM resources related to the transportation topic, a reminder of a workshop coming up, and a fabulous door prize. And then we'll talk about the December topic coming up. The STEM high school program, for anyone who's new to the call, we're going to be trying to use the internet and these webinar series to share with schools the best that we can find for expert speakers, great content related to the rapidly changing energy and green energy and world of jobs and technologies. Want to be able to help you connect with local PG&E partners and other industry partners, and help you as teachers and schools be prepared to work with your students in building that career pathway. You know, PG&E wants to recruit, retain, and help students help teachers and schools prepare students for careers in not just our own industry, but any number of STEM-related fields, and that's the purpose of our program. Well, we're going to have our, obviously, the webinar series and the curriculum that we'll offer, but we also have hands-on kits and workshops, the robotics grants we'll talk about. Other topics include how to explore STEM careers, and later in the series, summer internships and student scholarships. So I'm happy to turn this over now to Dave, manager of electric vehicles at Pacific Gas and Electric. Dave Almeida, I think I'd love to have your job. You can tell us, if you would, how you got here and what's exciting in the world of electric vehicles. So I'm going to just pass it over to you. I'm going to give you I'm going to make you the presenter.
Okay, let's see how this works.
Thank you for joining us, and take it away.
All right, can you guys see my screen right now?
I can.
Yep, looks great.
Okay, let me get into here. Okay, so, all right, so hello everybody, my name is David Almeida. I'm a manager here at PG&E. I focus on electric vehicles. I think what would be interesting from Barry had mentioned to me is to talk about kind of how I got here from a STEM perspective. So I have a background in science. I studied molecular biology in college, as well as political science. So it's kind of a unique background in that respect. And I spent a number of years working abroad, not in the science field, but more in international development. And then when I decided to go back to graduate school, I wanted to focus on energy and the environment. Yeah, because there was something that I was interested in from respect of kind of a science aspect, but also where that science mixes with social science. And so I found anything related towards energy and the environment had that fit. I also personally feel that the biggest challenge for the current generation and moving forward is climate change. And so how can we really tackle that big problem, with whatever I can do to be a part of that. So the way I saw that was energy and the environment. So that's kind of how I got here. Before coming to PG&E, I worked at the mayor's office in Los Angeles, focused on energy efficiency. Then I, with more of a background on policy and energy, then I moved into a role in at the nonprofit called the Center for Sustainable Energy, which I then moved on to focusing on kind of electric vehicles more specifically, managing incentive programs for the states through that nonprofit, and then doing a number of customer research on the early adopters of electric vehicles, as well as working with cities and other state agencies to get prepped and ready for electric vehicle deployment through addressing permitting and building codes and kind of other fun dry stuff like that. Then at PG&E, I've focused on, I've only been in the electric vehicle group, spent a lot of time working on how do we increase adoption with customers for electric vehicles through developing pilots for customer education aspects, so looking at web, incorporate that. And then looking at more on the vehicle side, from a vehicle grid integration, I ran a pilot with BMW for a couple of years, looking at how we can use these vehicles to manage the grid. Over the past 10 months, I've been focused primarily on the launch of our deployment of charging stations, level 2 charging stations, which we're getting ready to do in January. We actually just launched our website, actually 2 days ago, in our application. So it's kind of a soft launch before we get into a more full market launch in January. So that's what I've been doing. I want to spend a little bit of time looking at the policy side of electric vehicles, a little bit about the market, and then a little bit about what PG&E is doing. And I have to apologize to everybody. I do have to run a little bit early on this call, but we've got an excellent speaker after me, so I'm excited for that. So let me run through a couple slides as we're going. Just ask questions if you've got them. And no need to kind of raise your hand or anything, just read. So from a perspective of kind of looking ahead at 2030, from a greenhouse gas reduction goals, electric vehicles are a big component to this. When you look at the targets that California is using or the levers that California is using to reduce emissions, it's really focused on three things: increasing renewable energy, increasing energy efficiency, and increasing clean transportation, specifically with electric vehicles. And the reason why they're really focusing on the transportation sector is because when you look at emissions on a sector-by-sector basis across the state of California, transportation is the biggest one. It's also the hardest one to regulate. When you compare kind of a electricity generation or industrial emissions, those are point source emissions. They're in one place where you can either add a scrubber or you can regulate that business to reduce their emissions. Transportation, there's multiple actors and they're much smaller, but together in aggregate, they make a big impact. So trying to regulate those folks effectively is difficult. So how do you do that? And so the state is kind of looking at three different ways of doing that, either through reducing vehicle miles traveled, increasing cleaner vehicle options, and then also reducing the carbon content of fuel. That's kind of their three-peg approach. And as a utility, we play the role of as helping to implement that. And I'm just going to talk about that in a minute, but I want to talk a little bit about the market here. This is important to understand from an electric vehicle perspective. I think, if you're around 20 years ago, you've seen some of those movies of Who Killed the Electric Car. We've seen EVs come and EVs go. But what's different about today is that we are seeing much more options for customers and for people, more so than we've ever seen before. So when we looked at 2011 as kind of the first launch year, we had 4 vehicles on the market, but 2 of them really accessible to people. As we get into 2017, we have tons more models and more coming. We're seeing the release of exciting models like the Bolt or the Model 3 that have that 200 plus mile range, which is really the sweet spot for moving into that. We also see options moving forward within different types of vehicles, like the Chrysler Pacifica, which is a plug-in hybrid minivan. So lots more options. For us at pg&e, what's really exciting to us is that we're really kind of the center of electric vehicle deployment in the country and to some extent in the world. We've got, around 3,000 new EVs that are coming in each month onto our grid. And that's about a 50% increase in, if we compare our sales from 2017 to 2016. So that's pretty significant. And we're seeing these sales are increasing over time, which tells us that this is not a flash in the market, that we've got some teeth here, and we need to really invest and provide these services to our customers. We also we see that there's a lot of benefit here for us to leverage these vehicles as grid assets moving forward. A little bit more about the market updates. This is kind of just to show you, it took a long time to get us to 50,000 EVs, about 58 months. Our second 50,000 is 23 months. If we're going with the same projections that we've got right now, we're going to get that in less than 16 months. And it could be even shorter, depending on what we're seeing within the market. One of the things that we're looking very closely at is Model 3 deployment. We're expecting somewhere around 40,000 electric vehicles coming on just with the Tesla Model 3. That's a pretty significant boost to the market when we've got about 130 in our market right now. I'd like to kind of just show a little bit of kind of a fun fact from The Economist. Even the pessimists are looking at raising their vehicle forecast. So you've got OPEC, who I would argue is probably not the biggest electric vehicle supporter, since they manage or they're an oil cartel. But they've even accelerated their forecast significantly because they see this continuing to move up. So before I go into what PG&E is doing, any questions about the market or anything? Okay, I can move on. From a perspective of utility, we really took a step back to see what is our role. And when we look at electric vehicle adoption, there's about 3 barriers to this. The vehicles are just very expensive. There's either a lack of infrastructure or there's a perceived lack of infrastructure, and by infrastructure I mean charging stations. And then there's just a lack of information. From a utilities perspective, our role is really not in providing money to reduce the cost of the vehicle. We see that our role is really as an infrastructure provider, because that's what we traditionally do. So what we want to do is look at this and say, okay, what can we do to lever up that or to increase adoption? And to us, that is providing charging infrastructure. So we've deployed or we've proposed 3 different programs. One of those has been approved. That's one that I've been working on for the past 10 months, is the EV Charge Network. 7,500 level 2 charging stations across our territory. We're targeting workplaces and multi-unit dwellings. These are kind of the harder to reach areas where vehicles have longer dwell locations, because a level 2 charger takes about an hour for 24 or 25 miles of charge. So you're really there for a couple hours. And we're providing kind of turnkey installation for the most part for all of the equipment from the quote-unquote pole to the parking spot. And then in some cases, we're owning and operating the charging station under scenarios with multi-unit dwellings and in low-income areas. We've also proposed 2 other programs, the Fleet Ready and the Fast Charge. Fleet Ready is really focused more on medium and heavy-duty vehicles. We see a big opportunity for electric buses, as well as more of medium-duty, like beverage delivery trucks, and kind of drayage trucks at ports, forklifts, from converting them from diesel to electricity. And then we're also looking towards the future, where we see the hints that there's going to be a lot of electric long or goods moving trucks. Specifically, you heard from Tesla not too long ago that they're going to release a semi. So this is a really good opportunity for us to kind of get in the ground and help provide the infrastructure to support that deployment. So we've got that proposed. It's about a 5-year program, but it's sized specifically to the market. From a fast charge perspective, this is us helping to increase the amount of fast charging stations. So whereas the EV charge network, the one that's approved, is a little bit slower charge. The fast charge is really more focused on installing much faster charging stations to help support the growth of these vehicles. So we've got 1 approved and 2 that are kind of in the hopper right now, and we're looking at getting those approved over the next year or so. From a perspective of kind of what we're doing within electrification, we've got a lot of research and development. We've got infrastructure that's been approved and moving forward with this, and then we're also looking at rate design and other products. So you know, the idea here is that we've got a lot going on here, and we're really trying to understand from the perspective of how we can support this growth of the market. Is this only through rates? Is it through just charging infrastructure? Or is it also through how we can leverage these vehicles as grid assets? And I think it's a combination of all of those things. We're still early in the market, but we see a tremendous amount of opportunity for these for this space, and we're very invested in kind of moving it forward. So with that, I'd love to take any questions you guys might have.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
So I tried to get it when you were talking about the EVs, but I guess my microphone's being weird. Is there a place we could find that data to share and to show, maybe like make a high school assignment about it? Because I'm interested in that, to see where that push is coming from and see what kind of, I don't know, what kind of outside factors are driving that, to see like a whole big picture.
Oh, you mean from like deployment?
Yeah. It's like where is that information located?
Yeah, it's not so easy sometimes to get it, but I think there's a good proxy for you to look at. So the state, California, has an incentive program that I used to run it many years ago, but they provide data on the state rebate to anybody. So it's downloadable, and you can use that as kind of a proxy for electric vehicle deployment. The program is called the Clean Vehicle Rebate Program, CVRP, and they do have a data page where they provide just downloadable CSV file format. And so from a perspective of a kind of a high school student doing a project, they could easily take that data and run some analysis. They also have a page on the website that looks at kind of running stats from some survey work that they've done with these rebate customers. So it's a good opportunity for a high school student to kind of get their feet wet looking at data analysis and market analysis.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks for that, David. I'm familiar with that website, and I'll send something to you, Nathan, and to all the teachers, some links for that.
Cool. Anybody else? And if you don't have a question now, you can always reach out to Barry, and I'm happy to respond via email.
Yeah. Do you have more slides, David?
Nope, that's it.
Oh, okay, good. You know, I do want to ask you something, and I know then you have to run, but what if I was the grid, I'd be worried about a lot of cars plugging in and putting spikes in the demand curve, so to speak. Is it a concern to a utility company or to the independent system operator, you know, the grid? Or are there opportunities with vehicle to grid, for example? What's the?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I think that so that's a good question, and that's something that we definitely looked at very early on. And before vehicles came on, everyone's very nervous about having, you know, transformers go down and have this kind of overload on our local distribution system.
Sure.
And we've been doing a report called a load research report for the past 5 years that has shown that it really looks at upgrades required based on EV adoption. So like distribution upgrades that were triggered because of the vehicle, and we haven't seen much of this, so it hasn't really materialized. A lot of this has been that not everybody charges every day.
Right.
A lot of people charge on level 1. And we have a lot of people that wait to do their charging till later on in the evening because we have TOU rates.
Right.
So time of use rates that encourage people to do that. So that's kind of more of a, simple, blunt instrument to manage load. Now, moving forward, the real opportunity is how do you unlock that beneficial load and move it around the day? And that's when we get to not vehicle to grid, I would say, more vehicle grid integration. So how do you turn people on, turn people off, depending on when it's good? And that's kind of a trickier thing that we're really looking into, because there are strong benefits to having vehicles turn on and turn off just for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And if you can do that within like a 3-hour charging window, then you're not impacting somebody's commute. Then they can get a benefit. We get a benefit to reduce stress on the grid.
Yeah.
They get a benefit for passing on that the additional cost that we would have to pay to stabilize the grid onto them. And it's a good environment. It's a good just customer experience. That's a complicated thing to do, though. So we're still working through how we do that. And quite frankly, I think it's this debate between having these more simpler terms like a time of use rate with a more punctuated programmatic approach. But it's definitely something we're tracking. It's not a huge issue right now, but it's something that we want to. We're becoming more mature every year.
Right. I appreciate that, and I know you got to go there. The last thing I would ask is, because of the top, this is the STEM high schools and careers. Where do you see growth? What would be what's a great major for students who are to pursue that want to be involved in your world? Is this an electrical engineering, IT, mechanical engineering? What do you think?
I think IT. I think more and more you're going to have a lot of IT jobs that are coming into that. Autonomous vehicles are the hottest topic right now in this space, and I think there's going to be more and more jobs with that. If you look at the jobs that are open on Lyft or Uber or any of these kind of, or even in traditional automobile manufacturers, they're hiring software engineers, and they're pulling talent from various different places. So, that's not unlike what's going on with the rest of the world. For my side, policy. So somebody that has that blend between policy and the ability to kind of understand more some of the technical stuff. They don't have to work in the details of that, but understand how to kind of navigate between the two of those. So, in general, having somebody that's a very strong writer, a good communicator, has the ability to do some quantitative skills, or at least know kind of when there's BS within quantitative analysis.
Right.
Those are kind of a strong skill set to use. And then kind of from a market perspective, there's tons of jobs that are opening up in that software space. And I only see that autonomous vehicle market growing and growing and growing.
Right. That's terrific.
Cool. Yeah, well, great. It was good talking with everybody. And then just let me know if you've got any follow-up questions. And I'm sorry I got to run a little early.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, David.
Bye.
All right. Well, that was fun. I really appreciate that. Next, we have Mark Edelman, co-founder of Playing It Learning, to speak to us about the first robotics opportunities. Mark, are you on the line? You'll want to unmute if you're muted. Let's see. Connected to audio. Chat. Mark, can you hear us?
Looks like his name is still there, but his audio is not
He's
on.
muted. I've sent him a unmute request. Unmute request.
If he was on a Mac, I was having, I know a lot of Macs have this issue, but I could not get my audio to function.
Oh, weird.
From my phone or from my computer. I had to switch on my phone. It might be a network issue because I wasn't getting video either.
Right. I don't see.
If he's still at work. at school. I don't know.
Oh, this is unfortunate. I don't see. Attendees. I know he's on the call. Uh,
You want me to message him?
yeah, why don't you do that?
All right.
And we have the slide here. Eric.
I can also talk about our program if we don't get him back on in a minute.
Yeah, Emily, you're in a better position to speak to some of the points.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yay!
Oh, is that Mark? Yay!
Yes, I don't know what happened to the first phone call. It apparently decided to disconnect me. So I dialed in on a different phone. I was hearing you just fine. Yeah, you just weren't hearing me.
I'm glad you're back. Welcome back, Mark.
Thanks for persisting.
I'm hoping.
All right, so I'm ready when you are.
Okay, good. I have your slide up, and I'm excited to have you here. Thank you, Mark, for joining us. You're co-founder of Playing and Learning, and you're which is the Northern California partner for First Lego League and the First Tech Challenge. And you have 15 years as a software engineer in the semiconductor and storage network fields. But now you're with us in robotics and Playing and Learning. Thank you for joining us, and we're happy that you're able to tell us about the fabulous opportunities that our schools have with working with the robotics. Take it away.
Excellent.
And tell me when to advance the slide. I've got the slide too.
Yeah. So first off, thanks everyone for inviting me to be a part of your meeting this afternoon. Excited to tell everyone a little bit about First Tech Challenge and how you can take advantage of some support potentially with pg&e's aid as well. Let's go ahead to the next slide.
There you go.
Yeah. So First is a nonprofit out of New Hampshire. It got created with an effort to try to find ways of getting kids excited about science, technology, engineering in a way that was fun. So what they came up with was a series of competitive programs that involve students working on various levels of robotics. Along the way, it's evolved to be a lot more than that. It's really dead in line with the development of a really great set of very positive life skills. There is an extraordinarily incredible community that has developed in supporting it, and it's just a lot of fun, and it's just amazing. How about that next slide? So First actually is 4 separate programs that spans all the way from ages 6 through high school. Starts off at the very youngest age with First Lego League Junior, where students are working to build basically tabletop models, and they have a great experience at a science fair like expo. We move along into First Lego League. We're now looking at 9 to 14-year-olds, and it's the beginning of true robotics within the program. So the kids are working with the Lego Mindstorms equipment set, doing a fully autonomous robotics challenge on a 4-foot by 8-foot obstacle course.
Webinar, so I got to kind of hang out.
Okay, I'll bring that back.
Moving straight from there, we move into First Tech Challenge, and we're going to spend a little bit more time talking about First Tech Challenge. This is now the beginning of the upper middle school and high school age programs, and we're looking at head-to-head robotics, 2 head-to-head competitive robotics, 2 robots playing against another 2 robots in a sports-like model on a 12-foot square playing field. A set of challenges for the teams to work at, a high-energy type of match play, and a lot of fun for the kids that participate. And then the 4th program through First is the first robotics competition. It was their original program, and it's the oldest. In this program, the kids are working together as a group to build a rather large-scale robot, typically 2 foot by 3 foot, 3 or 4 foot tall, and as heavy as 120 pounds, to play in a 27-foot wide, 54-foot long playing field. Let's go ahead and jump to the next slide, and let's talk a little bit more about First Tech Challenge. Oh, back. One more slide on first. Along the way, I mentioned earlier that it really has evolved into much more than just the robot. First tagline right now is more than robots. And what we're finding, and what I've found in being involved for as many years as I have, is that the kids come in with interest and passion. We set them on a path, but the skills that really benefit them the most out of it aren't the technology skills as much as they are the life skills. So time management, project management, collaboration, compromise, all the things that come out of working in a very intense, challenging environment, and really does build great 21st century work-life skills. The teams are also based around the idea of entrepreneurship. And so the teams effectively generally model themselves as little startups. And so they think about their product, what they're developing, what their timelines are, who their funders are, and they have a lot of fun going through the experience. How about that next slide? So First Tech Challenge, teams of up to 10 students. I guess it's currently now 15 students. Some of these slides are from First and they're a little outdated. We're looking at upper middle school students into high school. The team of up to 15 students is going to work together to build a roughly 18-inch cube-sized robot to play on a 12-foot square playing field. They don't play this game alone. It is a sports-like model where they are in an alliance with another team. So those two teams work together to play against another two teams in a head-to-head sports-like model. This year, the theme is relic recovery. The kids are working to basically play a pattern creation game with 6-inch foam cubes and with a little bit of a Indiana Jones style archaeological theme. How about that? Can we go to the next slide, please? The equipment set the teams are working with is Android-based. So they're actually using Android phones to develop the control system that runs the communication between a driver station and the robot itself. They have choices of what programming environment to work with. They have a Scratch-like language called Blocks, or they can work directly with Java itself, including, if they wish to, working in Android Studio, the tool that the Android development environment, commercial environment, that's what everyone's using. Along the way, they develop strategic problem-solving skills. They're looking at a gameplay strategy, but they also have to develop the tactical thinking that goes along with what happens during a game, during a match. In addition to the robotics aspect of it, there are several different judged aspects. And at the competition, they have the opportunity to get awards for robot design, community outreach, the chronicling of the journey their team has gone through. And in general, for the high school age first teams are eligible to participate in scholarship programs for college in excess of $50 million. So First has done a great job of accumulating a lot of sponsors and colleges that are interested in helping provide opportunities for the students that participate. Next slide, if I could, please. In terms of the season for First Tech Challenge, we're kind of in the middle of it right now. The program begins in early September with the unveiling of the year's game. Teams participate in various types of tournaments. Here in Northern California, we have what are called qualifying tournaments, and those take place November through February. I'm busily getting everything ready for our first qualifying tournament this coming Saturday. Teams then advance from those qualifying tournaments to a regional championship. In Northern California, that's in late February. From the regional level championships, they'll move on to a super regional. So for our area, that's the 12 western states. and that'll take place in early March. This year, it's actually slated to be in Washington. So we're all eager and excited to see how that works out. And then from the super regionals, there's 4 of them across the United States. The teams move on to 1 of 2 world championships in late April. We can go ahead to the next slide, please. In terms of the relationship between PG&E and Playing at Learning with respect to First Tech Challenge, PG&E has provided funding to allow us to offer grants to First Tech Challenge teams. There are some criteria that go along with those grants. We're looking for teams that are coming from schools that are in a Title I or similar kind of need criteria environment for their communities. They do need to be residents of a PG&E service area. So those are the 2 primary criteria. And there are variable levels of funding. For rookie teams, we're offering a grant of $1,000 to help get the team established and started. And for returning teams, $500 to allow them to continue the development of the kids within the program. And then for teams that move between those various levels of competition, there are also additional funds available to help them advance their seasons. I apologize, this has all been very fast. I was asked to try to fit all this into 5 minutes. It's really challenging to try to squeeze this much down and get it all to work. Let's go ahead on to the next slide.
If there's carry on, you have one more slide. And yep. we have time for questions.
Excellent. So the URL I've got there with the additional grant details has several pieces of information. It has a general description of the PG&E grant program, has a flyer that you can download, and there's also an application form that can be downloaded as well. And the application form includes instructions on what to do with the application once you've submitted it, once you've got it prepared. More information about FIRST in general can be found at the firstinspires.org website. More info on Playing at Learning can be found at the playingatlearning.org website. Additionally, we maintain a program-specific site for Northern California, norcalftc.org. And then my counterpart in the Los Angeles, Southern California area maintains a firsttechsocal.org website. So some of the dates I gave for timelines will vary a little bit based on whether you are a Southern California team or a Northern California team, but the general flow to the season is pretty similar. With that, I'm open to questions.
Thank you. Does anyone have questions for Mark? And thank you, Mark, for giving us a nice overview. That's good. I'll send everyone to I'll be sending you links, and they'll include the links to this program. Emily, do you have anything to add?
No, just a thank you, Mark, for joining and sharing the news. This is kind of the best kept secret that there are grants available to help get these programs off the ground. So if you already have an existing program, if you're thinking of building one for this year or next year, reach out to Mark and the team at FIRST. We can go to pg.com/first, and it has the details about the grant program. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks again, Mark.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So we like to recommend curriculum that's related to topics with each webinar, and the NEED project has these are available free for free download, and I will send everyone links to these. The transportation fuels debate is a great high school critical thinking activity that I think it's a great chance to teach about the different fuels that are available out there, ethanol, including electricity. Transportation fuels Enigma is similarly built around high school classrooms and intermediate levels as well, and is a fun way to describe and learn about multiple different ways of fueling transportation, not just liquid fuels. Oops, sorry. exploring hybrid buses. We're seeing more and more hybrid buses and actually electric buses now. And the transportation trio has 3 different, they're all really fun activities. Pretzel Power is a interactive out in the playground game that I do with high school teachers who come to our workshops sometimes. There's a road trip activity that has to do with planning, planning using different kinds of transportation. How would you get across the country, for example? And other fun games. So I'll be sending you links for that. We are just about full. We're so excited about our next week of a workshop. But if you're interested and you haven't signed up, you should have already received information about the STEM workshop in Stockton next Wednesday from 8:30 to 3. The very capable Nathan Ahmed, who's on this call, is actually going to be there, so I'm excited about that. I think Emily will be there. I'll be there. And in the morning, everyone's going to be using solar and wind hands-on energy kits and energy audit tools. They'll get a tour of the Energy Training Center there in Stockton. They'll hear from different career specialists in the afternoon. Breakfast and lunch are provided and substitute reimbursement. And every teacher who attends will get their choice of the 3 kits that are going to be used in the morning. We've also just identified the date for our spring workshop, which will be of a similar nature, slightly different agenda. It'll be in San Ramon at the San Ramon Valley Convention Center.
That's it.
Yeah.
Conference Center.
Conference Center. And it's really a pg&e training site. It's fabulous. It's got hotel rooms, a great restaurant, all these different classrooms, and it's across the street from the very exciting Advanced Technology Services facility. And we're going to have a lot of great speakers in the afternoon, I'm sure. So that's something to look forward to for February. And these are just pictures of the kits that'll be featured possibly at both workshops. We may fiddle with the spring workshop that's out a bit, but for next week's workshop, these are the kits that we're providing. And boom, if there are any questions about anything up till this point, ask them now. If there are not, then I'm going to select randomly someone to win a kilowatt meter. I'm seeing who's on the call. Renee, can you hear me? Renee LaFriends?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, hi Renee. Were you the winner last time?
I won last time, so if you picked me again, feel free to give it to someone else.
Have you received your kilowatt meter yet?
Yes, I did. Thank you so much, and I've used it. It's fun to play with.
It's a pretty remarkable tool. I was a teacher when I first came across these, and I used them quite a bit. Nathan Ahmed, who's also on the call, has used these. He's familiar with the kilowatt meter.
They're cool.
They're cool, and you can actually do there's a lot of learning to be done with the kilowatt meter. My randomly selected winner, and I hope that you will respond, that you're hearing this message somehow. You're going to have to unmute Karen Swan. Are you on the call, Karen?
She says yes.
Is she there? Yeah. Send a test.
Can you unmute her?
I'm going to Karen Swan to all. I'm going to say you're the big winner.
Woo-hoo.
I'm in a room where I haven't figured out the microphone yet, but hopefully, Karen, you're the winner. I just sent her a text, and she's the winner. So if she's in a room when she hasn't figured out how to use the microphone, that's all right. Congratulations to her, and everyone, thank you for joining us. You're going to be sent a recording of today's presentation, a link to the First Robotics program. I'll send a link to the Clean Vehicle Rebate program and links to the curriculum I mentioned. And next week, please join us. Bring a friend recommend this fabulous webinar series to other teachers. We're going to be talking about I Can Afford College and Fund Your Future. Different programs that can really make a difference for some of your students. It's amazing how many resources are out there and our students don't know about these. So with that, thanks very much. We are at our 4:15 time and we've run out of time. If there's any questions, go ahead and ask them. And
Gary, there was a quick question from Mark Wheeler in the chat. I don't know if you caught it.
Okay, I don't see it.
If there was
oh, hi, Mark. Yeah, go ahead. Can you take that for us, Emily? That looks like first.
It was a question for Mark Edelman about whether there was a first league in the Tulare or Porterville area or Visalia.
Why don't I just forward that question for Mark to Mark?
Is he still here? Okay.
Mark's actually still here.
Oh.
Okay. What do you think, Mark?
The topics are interesting, so I thought I'd stay and listen.
Okay.
You never know where you're going to learn something. So we did see that there are a couple of teams now registered in Visalia. We are piloting a new qualifying tournament in Fresno that'll take place in the middle of December. So please feel free to send me an email. If you go to the norcalftc.org website, there's an email contact at the bottom of the page. Send me an email and we will get you connected up with what's happening in that general region.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
That's great. I'm glad you're still there. Thanks so much. Well, with that, again, I just want to thank everyone. And Emily, any closing words?
Oh, just thanks. It's always great connecting with you all. So thanks for taking the time. I look forward to seeing you on the next call or at the workshop next week.
Yay. Workshop.
Thanks, Barry.
Okay. Thanks, Emily. Thanks, everyone. And again, congratulations, Karen. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.